Hello, everybody. My name is Íñigo de Miguel Beriain. I'm a distinguished researcher at the University of the Basque Country, and I'm leading an EU-funded project called PanelFit that is aimed at facilitating the implementation of the new EU regulation on data protection. So it's a very nice and interesting project, and you could find a lot of information in our webpage, that's panelfit.eu. But today I will be addressing a very interesting issue that is, I guess that it's at stake at the present moment, at least at the EU level. This issue is what we usually call the immunity certificates and the use of this tool in times of pandemics. So, in order to give you some kind of factual information, I guess that you all know right now that immunity certificate implemented at the EU arena for the first time in history just some months ago. It was in June of 2021 when the new regulation 2021-953 on a framework for the issuance, verification and acceptance of COVID vaccination tests and recovery certificates was finally published in the EU tool. So at this moment, the EU certificate was made real, and for the first time in history, we have something like a kind of certificate of immunity ruling at the EU level. This was not indeed a totally novel idea or concept. We had a quite well-known precedent that were those so-called immunity passports. Immunity passports could be defined as digital or physical documents that certify that an individual had been infected and is purportedly immune to SARS-CoV-2. That's more or less the idea that we had with these immunity passports. Those were quite famous at the very beginning of the pandemics because there were a lot of people who were clearly against them, but there were also some people who were saying that those of us who could have been infected by the virus could be also considered immune to that virus, and so they could recuperate some of the fundamental right of freedoms that have been somehow stolen due to the needs of that concrete moment. However, immunity certificates are a little bit different to that concept in the sense that those are a wider concept in the sense that they include some different ways in order to prove your immunity. So if I were to define or describe them, I should say that those are tools aimed at providing evidence that someone is not infected since he or she has either been vaccinated against COVID-19 or received a negative test result, usually in the past 72 hours, or they have recovered from COVID-19. So this is more or less what we could consider a description. In the case of the EU certificates, there are some key features that I think that are particularly relevant, and maybe they just describe the best possible way in which we could create this kind of certificates. One is that they can be digital or paper format certificate. This is very important because in this way we are just trying to avoid that some people get discriminated due to the lack of skills regarding new technologies, digital technology. So this is important. They usually work with a QR code. They are free of charge. That is also important. They don't cost anything at all. They are both in English and in the national language of the citizen of the EU. This is also important because it facilitates that people could work with them. They are safe and secure, or they are supposed to be, even though we will talk about this later on, and they are valid in all EU countries. Okay, so this is more or less the main features that they got. As I was telling you before, they got quite a clear purpose. They are aimed at ensuring that only people able to provide evidence that they are not infected with the virus gain access to certain environments that we could call secure environments. Those could be aircrafts, but also restaurants, concert halls, soccer stadiums, or basket stadiums and halls, bars, etc. I mean, there are no limits when thinking about the type of space that could be secure thanks to a kind of immunity passport. They could be either private or public venues, of course, but there might be some differences between them, but both of them could be covered by an immunity certificate. And so in principle, they could be very good tools, excellent tools, in order to ensure that you could attend a kind of an event or enjoy your life in a pub or a restaurant feeling quite more safe than in any other possible way. However, we must widely confess that they also involve a number of issues that have been really underlined by those people who are against immunity certificates. To be sincere, I must confess that in general, I don't think that these kind of issues are strong enough to think that immunity certificates should not be enforced, should not really work in the future, especially because the alternatives that we have are not better at all. But in any case, I think that it should be honest to show what we get, what might be the possible issues, how to face some of them, and mostly what issues will remain, and there will be some kind of side effects that we will have to live with, and there's almost nothing that can be done at all. So there are some different kind of issues of different types, and I will be just trying to address each one of them. Mostly they are related to risk, security, discrimination, equity, and privacy, and so on. Those are the main topics that are involved in the discussion. So I will start from the first one, that is risk. Well, here there is a quite factual issue that we have to face. Immunity certificates are based on the idea that they can provide evidence that someone is not infected. I mean, that providing such evidence is possible. But in practice, this is not totally real. I mean, it's very hard, if not impossible, to provide evidence of anything like that, because it might happen that that risk exists. Indeed, zero risk is not really real as a concept. Indeed, there are three ways to obtain a kind of an immunity certificate. Each of these ways involves some issues. For example, people or vaccinated people, well, some of them will never really gain any kind of immunity thanks to the vaccine. There are some people that unfortunately will not benefit from vaccination. That's an evidence. There will be not so many people, but there will be people. Further on, there are some vaccines that do not provide sterilizing immunity. This means that even though vaccinated people will not develop the disease, they can get infected. If they can get infected, most probably they will be able to spread the virus. Of course, this will not happen in the same way that someone who has not been vaccinated, but we know that at least some types of the virus, some of the variants might be, able to infect vaccinated people, so they could spread the virus. So it's not so clear that someone who's vaccinated will be able to provide this evidence that they will not be infected people at all. Same happens with test people, meaning that tests could work not so well, meaning that you could have a false negative, meaning that the test is saying that someone is not infected, but it is, they are. So we might have a risk on that. And of course, the time schedule also opens a door for some possible issues, meaning that you could be a negative at the time when you perform the virus, but you could get infected in the 70 hours before addressing or accessing to the concrete secure space, meaning that at that moment you could be infected even though you were tested negative 72 hours ago. So there's an issue with that. And of course, people who suffer the disease might reinfect or might get infected again. So All those possibilities makes that the idea of zero risk and totally secure space is not really working so well. Of course, we could increase the requirements so as to reduce the risk. For example, we could ask for a time span of 24 hours instead of 72 for the test performed and so on, or we could ask vaccinated people for test as a kind of an additional requirement. This, for example, could make a sense if we were dealing with an especially important space, such as, for example, kind of a nurse home or the type of the part of a hospital that is devoted to treat people who are having problems with the immunitary system or anything like that. So we could introduce additional requirements in order to reduce the level of risk. However, it is true that we will never arrive into the zero risk, but most of the times we will have to balance what we got in there. And for example, if most of vulnerable population has already been vaccinated, we could accept a higher level of risk, and instead we only have a small amount of people being vaccinated that will probably have to make us be more exigent about the requirements related to risk. Then we have another thing that is about security. This is quite different. Security only means that, of course, certificates could be falsified. And indeed, we have already seen some good examples of these falsifications. For example, in June 2021, there was an impressive network of falsification in Sweden with more than 100,000 certificates that really were falsified somehow. So we know that this is going to happen, and of course this could really compromise the whole idea and the whole system. So the thing that we have to do really is try to fight it and try to improve our way to analyze whether a certificate has been falsified and to try really to chase those ones who are doing so. But it's very hard to say that we should forget about this idea because, for example, the alternative to immunity certificates will be kind of PCR tests in order to fly. So we come back to the same issue, even a worse issue, because in this way we will just expose everybody to falsification instead only those people who are not vaccinated or who have not, or who have recuperated from the disease. So the scenario will not be better at all. Of course, there's an alternative that nobody's addressing secure spaces, nobody's flying, and so on. But this is not a practical alternative, to be sincere. So we have to live with that. And I think that we should just try to introduce the measures that could really reduce the risk related to security. Then we have what we usually call the discrimination issues that are very important from a moral point of view, and it's indeed one of the main concerns about these immunity certificates. Indeed, those who are against them usually point out that they divide the population, the citizens, in two main groups, immunized and non-immunized community, and this could bring quite severe consequences, and people who are non-immunized could feel like discriminated due to their situation because they could not really access to some spaces while immunized people could. So the idea is that we will be creating two different types of citizens with two different legal status and so on, and this seems quite unfair, at least at the first glance. But I do think that this is not really a good way of approaching this situation. And this is due to a very simple thing. In any pandemics, whenever something like that happens, citizens are in fact divided into groups. Those groups are the ones who could really spread the virus and those who cannot do so. And indeed, in practice, of course, we take different measures depending on whether you belong to one of these groups or the other. And this makes perfect sense. I mean, what we really need to do in a situation such as pandemics is to try to trace and isolate those people who can spread the virus. But there is no real justification to do the same with those people who cannot. That will be a totally unfair discrimination. That will be real unfair discrimination because we will be treating people who are not a threat to public public health as if they were such, and this makes no sense from the perspective of their freedoms or rights. So, in my honest opinion, there's no problem in tracing distinctions between citizens depending on their status, on the capacity to spread the virus. It is quite important to point out that we do not discriminate them on the basis of their health status. It is not important whether they are sick or not. It is important whether they can spread the virus. It is not important what they are suffering. It is important what they can make all of us suffer in the future. So this is the basis, and this is what should be really, considered when we think about possible discrimination. However, there is an extremely important issue that is linked to discrimination, but it's somehow different. It's the point that has to do with inequity. What does it mean, inequity? It means that the access to immunity passports can hardly be granted to all citizens for a long time because it will be too expensive. Of course, if most of the citizens were vaccinated, this will not be an issue, because the real thing that costs money is the testing. Testing indeed is very expensive. For instance, in Denmark, when they are offering free testing for the population, it's really costly. It might be like 600 million euros monthly in a country such as this, or it could be even more expensive in some other countries. So this could be quite unfair in terms of allocation of public resources. So there's also some things that happen with that, which is that, for example, undocumented immigrants could hardly benefit from that. So the main problem that we will have with this is that at some point there might be some differences between those people who really can afford being tested and those who cannot. For example, the EU is introducing a kind of 100 million funding in order to help people receive cheap tests. But 100 million euros is not so much, and probably will not serve for a lot of different things. This in practice means that we should really, try to trace some boundaries on the concrete space that will be linked to immunity certificates. We can hardly extend this system to all possible spaces. And for example, I dare say that in the case of restaurants and bars or anything like that, it can hardly be hold that immunity certificates will work forever. So there are some alternatives, such as, for example, venue tagging, also called like check-in tagging, for this kind of spaces that will not really serve so well to prevent infection, but at least could serve well to improve tracing. And we will probably have to live with those alternative systems, because immunity certificates are too expensive in order to be applicable to everywhere in this world. So the idea is that we should be conscious of this limitation. And of course, there will be huge differences between poor and rich countries, in the sense that poor countries will probably be unable, could hardly, help their citizens gain access to testing. They could not afford testing. So citizens of those countries will probably, feel discriminated against those people from rich countries. But that will be something that is really linked to inequity, not really about discrimination as such. It's not a problem about the tool, but about the access to the different ways of reaching this tool. The main and the most disturbing final consequence is that some people might voluntarily get infected in order to obtain the immunity certificates, because that will be much cheaper than be constantly paying for the test, especially if those people cannot really gain access to vaccination. That is something that will happen in a lot of countries in this world, at least in the next year. And finally, we got a very important issue, the issue that is especially interesting for someone who is working on data protection issues and privacy and so on, such as me, myself, and the Benefit Project and so on. One of the things that we all have in mind is that using this kind of immunity certificates involve processing a lot of data, a lot of personal data, or at least, and to be sincere, it involves processing personal data of lots of people. Those are special categories of data because they are health data in general. And so it is true that these are very sensitive data, and it might happen that if someone who should not gain access to this data, the consequences could be really quite important for some of those people. I wouldn't say that those will be really, the most terrible thinkable consequences, because at the end of the day, someone who is really, gaining access to this access will know if you are vaccinated or not, or if you have already suffered the disease and survived to that, and so on. But they're sensitive data. But there are some things that we could do about that, and I think that the idea of implementing privacy by design policies and so on could be very efficient in order to try to face that. Of course, we will have to introduce some purpose limitation policies, meaning that we should ensure that the subject, that the data will only be processed for the kind of purposes that are very well defined when we are asking for those data, meaning that they will only be used, for example, for getting access to that restaurant or to that aircraft or whatever, and nothing else at all. It is important to state also that we will only be sharing those data that are really necessary in order to ensure an easy processing, an easy way of dealing with these immunity certificates, meaning that you will only be required to give some information about you, and but just enough for that and nothing else. And there should be a kind of a storage limitation, such as the EU is offering right now. For example, the EU is saying that those data will only be conserved for some time, and the whole system will disappear as soon as the pandemic is over, which I think makes perfect sense. And last but not least, of course, nice security measures should be implemented in order to try to avoid hacking the whole system. Of course, there might be some attempts to do so, so we must keep an open eye and try to do our best in order to avoid a kind of hacking of those data. So I dare say that in general, we must conclude that somehow the system could work very well, and there are some ethical and legal issues that, of course, must be kept in mind when we are dealing with that, and there are some consequences that we will really have to live with. For example, we could hardly extend this immunity certificate system to all the spaces in this world, and probably it will introduce some kind of discrimination based on inequity between citizens from different countries. Undocumented immigrants could also suffer some consequences. So we will have to understand that this might happen, and we will try to do our best to try to minimize these consequences and try to really do our best to introduce equity policies to compensate that. But at the end of the day, I think that this tool could be very useful in order to handle pandemics, and at some point I think that it will incorporate to the kind of the tools that we really need for future pandemics. So thank you very much for your attention. I hope that this has been interesting to you. If you are willing to contact me, you could always do that in my email, which is inigo.demiguelb@ehu.eus. So thank you so much again for your attention, and enjoy the rest of the Congress. Bye.